Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Resilience. This is the show where you will discover that every challenge that you face in life is conquerable, especially when we work together. I'm your host, Brad Neufeld, and we've got an awesome show for you today. We got Mr. Paul Cardall and Mr. J.D.NETTO here, and I'll be introducing them here shortly. But I just want to give a shout out to our sponsor. That's Matter Behavioral Health down in Mount Pleasant, Utah, and I'll talk to you a little bit more about that at the end of this segment here. But anybody that you have in your family or friends or neighbors or anybody who's suffering with addiction or mental health challenges, you'll definitely want to stay tuned for that so you can find out a little bit more about that. But let's go ahead and jump right into our interview here today. We have Mr. Paul Cardall and Mr. J.D. I'm so grateful to have you guys here. I mean, Paul, you're the very definition of our theme, resilience, and I'm grateful to have you here. Yeah, because for those of you who don't know Paul, you'll definitely want to get these books that we're going to talk about today, the Broken Miracle series, and so we'll get into great depth about that. But I know most people that know you, Paul, they know you've had a heart transplant. But I was just thinking about this a little bit because my audience knows very well that I had a brain injury. I had a brain abscess and almost died from that about 15 years ago. And so, but the more I was thinking about it, people can live without brains. That happens all over the United States, right? But not very many people can live without a heart.
Yeah. which is so true. And that's why I was saying that now we've got JD who had to get some courage. So
yes,
just need Dorothy and a dog, and we're on our way.
That's it. Yeah.
Off to see the wizard.
That's right. So after for our audience here, because all of us have challenges in life, obviously, and it's so detrimental and traumatic to us when we have these type of challenges. But what did you do? You found out you had this heart challenge. It was when you were really young, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I was born here in Utah in 1973, and congenital heart disease was relatively unknown. Mm-hmm. It's the leading cause of infant-related deaths, and it basically means there's a deformity in the heart, and they couldn't, back then you weren't doing ultrasounds. So when I came into the world, I was a blue baby, and immediately they took me from my mom and took me off and pretty much tortured my body in order to save me. They operated on me, and but they told my parents there's no way I would make it. But I kept living, and I had countless medical procedures in and out of the hospital, and that was my childhood, a lot of trauma. But what's ironic with when you're a child going into the hospital, they spoil you. They there's a lot of family people coming in, doing things for you. I think it was the first time I met John Stockton. He was he was a new jazz player.
Right.
And there's this picture of me like half dead as a teenager, like a zombie, and in walks this basketball player I've never heard of, but it's John Stockton. And Frank Layden was Santa Claus. And so you get all these amazing things and you feel spoiled, but at the same time they're torturing you, sticking needles in you. So later on in life, how does that play out? Because a lot of what we go through as children will come to the surface as we're adults and we start raising our own children, which is pretty much why which is the story of the Broken Miracle. I mean, my life has been a man with half a heart. We wrote a song, me and Kiefer from Thompson Square. They're a Grammy-nominated country band.
Yes.
And in the song, I asked the question, "Can you love a man with half a heart?" Those are the types of things that you deal with when you have, whether it's a brain issue or it doesn't have to necessarily be an illness. You may have from depression, anxiety. You may have something that makes you feel different, like a misfit, an outcast, and you're struggling to get by and nobody really understands you. That's where you have to figure out how to process all that stuff and deal with all that stuff. And JD says this best. Things that are perfect don't need a miracle.
Right.
But things that are imperfect need a miracle.
Wow.
Only the shattered need to be mended.
Great saying. Great saying. And again, for those of you who don't know Paul, he's an award-winning pianist. He's been, you've you've had quite an impact on a lot of other artists as well. You've signed a lot of other well-known artists. I know,
I've been blessed.
David Archuleta, and then the piano guys. For let's see, who else? Well, you said the Neon Trees.
Well, we've worked with. I've been blessed to be able to use music as a tool to help me process life. And then because it's helping me, it's been my life's work to use music to help other people. And mostly it's piano with calm, like soothing orchestration, kind of a classical style. But then I've been able to write songs. And so the people I've collaborated with are, David Archuleta, Tyler Glenn from the Neon Trees, CeCe Winans, who just won her 3rd Grammy.
Yes.
Well, she won 3 Grammys, so now she's the most decorated, 4th most decorated woman in Grammy history. Wow. And so I pinch myself every day that I've had these opportunities, You're born with half a heart. It's kind of like, let's give this kid a Make-A-Wish foundation life.
Yeah, and it's about to be over. But when you were young and you had all this going on, did you have any idea that you would have this type of success that you had?
No, because I would always hear the doctors tell my mom that he's not going to live. He's not going to grow up. So I was obsessed with death and what's next, and religion, and trying to understand the purpose and meaning of it all. And my parents raised me LDS, and it gave me a lot of comfort because they have all the answers.
Yes.
And those answers were very satisfying and helped me move on and move forward. But as you progress and grow and become your own person, sometimes those answers become bigger questions. And so that's where not only do you struggle physically, but you start to struggle mentally with life. Is this what it's all for? So.
Oh, wow. So JD, let's tell us a little bit about you. I do know you're a multifaceted best-selling author. You are author of the fantasy series The Whispers of the Fallen. Okay, and you've become an underground phenomenon. I like the way that's put down. I want you to explain this underground
I'll
phenomenon.
explain that.
So go ahead, please. Tell us a little bit about, because you're actually the one who wrote the book.
I did.
I know it's based on Paul's life.
Yeah.
But just tell us a little bit about you and what brought you to this point.
Of course. Well, I was born in Brazil. I moved to the States when I was 12.
Okay.
And I've always been a fan of stories. I started drawing when I was 3. I taught myself how to draw, and so I've always loved storytelling, whatever medium that meant. And when I started writing my first novel, which became The Whispers of the Fallen, was around 20, I came across Paul's music. I was in a hotel room with friends, and his song Redeemer came on, and I just remember being taken by this song, and I had to Google who this person was, and then I discovered the story that we all know, right? The man living with half a heart.
Right.
And I do remember that at that time he hadn't had the transplant yet. So he became my go-to to write. Whenever I was writing the deep, somber scenes, I would resort to his music. And The Whispers of the Fallen was my very first novel. I started working on it when I was 18 years old. And we call it an underground phenomenon because it was a completely independent project. And it got me to where I am. It's not even on the shelves anymore. But I've always loved stories, and then I wrote 4 books in that series, and but then we connected because I DM'd Paul on Instagram. I found him on Instagram, and I wanted to thank him for his music because up until this day, his music is still in my creative moments. And then we connected, and at the end of 2018, he dropped a line that said, "Oh, if there's ever a novel or something about my life, I would love to consider you." And I'm thinking, oh,
really?
That's interesting.
You were inspired, Paul.
I was, because I like that JD was born in Brazil, that he immigrated here, that English was his second language, that's now become his first language. Because when I got my heart transplant, my donor, I learned, is from another country.
Okay.
And was an immigrant. And so I felt this connection, but I also liked the fact that JD had a little more grittiness in his storytelling, because I didn't want, if somebody told my story, I didn't want it to have all the fluff. I wanted it to be so honest and real, because I want people to learn from my mistakes, my pain, so that if they have a child or a family member who is a misfit, you know, maybe there's something in there that you can learn on how to be better in preparing them for their future. My parents and family were fantastic, but there's no training. Nobody told us how to be parents.
Right.
Nobody taught, you know, we observe our own parents, but it's a completely another generation.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Raising my kid now,
Boy, we could have a whole show on that, couldn't we, Sylvia? Yeah.
I can't raise my, you know, fortunately I've got two amazing kids, and the oldest is good at whatever she does. The youngest is into plants, and she's got, she grows these plants in her windowsill, and she calls it, you know, they're her succulents. I didn't even know what that word was. She's 9 years old. And I said, how are your succulents today? And she says, Dad, they're living their best life.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, but
Oh,
now,
that gave me chills.
But now two of the plants were growing together, and their leaves started touching. So she decided to get them married.
Okay.
Yeah, so she held a ceremony to marry the plants that were now touching. She goes, now that they're married, they can touch all they want.
That's good.
And I said, I don't know where you're getting this information,
Yes.
but I'm very happy I don't have to father you right now.
That's right.
Keep going with that.
That's exactly.
Maybe she's teaching me. I don't know.
Well, JD, I wanted to ask you this. So, as Paul inspired you with his music, was there a time, I'm sure it ran through your mind, I want to get a hold of Paul. What was that like? Because again, a lot of the people in our audience, they talk to me about this all the time. Brad, it's like I get these impressions of what to do, but I don't know how to do it. I don't know what to. And so, was that kind of a?
Paul can attest to this, because we've known each other personally for 3 years now.
Okay.
I'm a very gutsy guy.
Okay.
I go with my gut.
Yes.
And when I saw his account on Instagram, because it popped as a suggestion, I followed him, and I was like, you know, I should drop a line, because I love to honor artists.
Yeah.
You know, we never know where our art is at, or where it's going, or what it's doing to people. So I just went with my gut. I never thought it would lead to this. When I discovered his music, I was going through a very rough patch. And that song was the song that pulled me into this world that, 14 years later I got to write about. And it reads like a fantasy novel, but it's a human fantasy, if I can call it that, because one thing that really resonated with me was, here you have this child who dreams of things that are so normal to all of us, but things that he couldn't have. And, you know, kids like me who came to the States at the age that I came, the press calls us dreamers.
Right.
So I really connected with the dreams.
Gotcha.
Even though we lived in different environments, the dream of living for something bigger was there for the both of us. So how could I not write about that?
Right.
And what's interesting is, you know, the song that he heard that connected him was Redeemer. And that song is basically my arrangement of an LDS hymn.
Okay.
I Know My Redeemer Lives.
Okay.
But that song, the way that I did it was just piano with orchestra. And I had Stephen Sharp Nelson, the piano guys, and Marshall McDonald. They arranged the strings based on what I was envisioning.
Okay.
And then we put it out there. I've had unbelievable emails from not just Christians, but atheists,
Really?
Hindus,
Wow.
Muslims, who have said that in a moment of contemplation of whether they should live or not, they were contemplating suicide. One man in Iraq, I've shared this story, after the war, his family had been killed in the first Gulf War, and in the second Gulf War, he was working on the military base, and that's when he basically said, I was going to take my life. And I was sweeping in this military base, and I heard the radio from the soldier, And all of a sudden, this beautiful piece of music came on, and it was your song, Redeemer. And in that moment, I felt Allah tell me, my son, I want you to live. Like, and we had people at the book signing the other day just pull me aside and say, you know, I was contemplating taking my life, and one of your songs came on the radio.
Oh my gosh.
So it's crazy.
That has to feel good.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because I didn't set out to be the guy that, you know, walks you off the ledge. I just was trying to play music that helped me understand what is it all for. And the beautiful thing with instrumental music is you can receive your own wisdom from the divine that's a customized message to you that you most need to know in that moment.
So maybe I can get something through my electric guitar over there.
There you go, yeah. Hey, it worked for Jimi Hendrix.
That's true.
Yeah. But you see,
You
that's
know?
that's the beauty of art and artists owning our stories, right? Because for quite some time, you think that these bumps on the road will make you less than others, but the moment you own up to every facet of you, no one can steal that story away from you anymore. You take over the narrative, and that's also a huge theme in The Broken Miracle, because it's about coming to terms with, this is who I am, this is where I'm going, these are my rights, and these are my wrongs, and everybody deserves a second chance regardless of the path
That's right.
they're walking on.
And people need to, I think the hardest thing for each of us is when we have a family member or somebody we care about who is in this journey, that we tend to go, what is going on with them? And we instantly have our own moral standards and our own, the way we see the world. We think they need to see through the same glasses as we do, but we may not recognize that that person is we say they're a child of God, but I don't think we're trusting God with his child.
Wow.
Instead, what we're doing is we're saying, these are my morals, these are my standards, this is what I believe, and that person ought to believe the same thing. And anything that they start to do in their life that seems controversial or different sends fear into the people. That's why, or confusion or sadness, and you automatically write that person off as they're going astray, or there's a dark path. But, you know, I'm a Christian.
Yes.
Jesus leaves the 99 to rescue the one.
Rescue the one. Right.
He's not a God who is waiting for you. He's a God who is chasing you. There's not a ladder.
We got to explore that a little bit.
Well, there's not and these are the things I've learned through all this, Jesus doesn't put a ladder down for you to climb up. He jumps out of the sky with ropes and is rappelling down and just snatching you on up, and you're kicking and screaming the whole time while he's loving the hell out of you.
Right.
Literally, loving the hell out of
exactly.
you. Bringing you to peace and freedom. Because he wants you to have a beautiful experience in this life. Not one of suffering and pain and testing.
Yes.
You know? And the real irony of it, in all of it, really, is too often we think we have to do this, and this, and we keep notes and scores and goals, and it just becomes, we're putting chains around our ankles instead of just letting go and trusting. And that's what I had to learn to do, living with only half a heart, because I was at the mercy of medical technology, science, and the God who gave us all that knowledge.
Right. Wow.
You know?
Wow. Well, let's take a quick break here when we come back, because I know there's 1,000 questions I want to, but as you were telling me before we started the show, these books that we're about to introduce are the after all of the initial health challenges.
Well,
that you
no,
had, right?
They explore all of it.
All of it.
It's from the day I'm born
to
performing at the White House.
You bet. Wow. Well, let's get into this a little bit more. I'm excited, guys. But anyway, we've got our guests today are Paul Cardall and J.D.NETTO, and they're going to tell you or talk you a little bit more about their book, The Broken Miracle, and we're going to get into that when we get back from this break. So we're going to talk to you a little bit about matter behavioral health, and we'll be right back after that. All right, everybody, thank you so much for staying tuned. I hope you're enjoying our program today. I wanted to take this little pause here to talk to you about our platinum sponsor today, that being Matter Behavioral Health. If you or a loved one are suffering from this debilitating disease known as addiction, or if you're suffering with any other mental health challenge such as depression, anxiety, please take a moment to check out Matter Behavioral Health. Matter Behavioral Health is our experts in designing a program that fits you perfectly, whether it be an inpatient, an outpatient, or something that you can do in your free time even. They can design the program that's perfectly right for you. And if you have tried other programs and not had the success that you're looking for, I highly encourage you to try these guys out. They're wonderful. We have had the opportunity here at the Resilience Talk Network to get to know them, and we have researched them, and their hearts are just in the right place. They're doing everything for the right reasons. They've come up with different strategies that are different than probably ones that you've been through if you've been through other programs or you've tried other things that don't work. Give them a shot, okay? Take the time to give them a call. You can call them at 435-462-2781. Once again, that phone number is 435-462-2781. Or you can look them up online at matterbehavioralhealth.com. That's MATR behavioralhealth.com, MATR behavioralhealth.com. Check them out and get rid of this debilitating disease once and for all. They have the technology and the systems that'll get right to the core of what's driving the addiction or the mental health challenge that you're suffering with today. Give them a call. I highly recommend it.
Welcome to the Resilience Talk Network. My name is Jay Walter, and I'm the host of Rebuilding. Heard every weekday night from 6 to 7 p.m. You can listen in and learn how to face your fears, overcome obstacles, and make dreams a reality. So listen every weekday night from 6 to 7 p.m. right here on the Resilience Talk Network.
All right, everybody, and welcome back to Resilience. Our show today is Mr. Paul Cardall and Mr. J.D.NETTO, and they're going to talk to us today about the book known as The Broken Miracle. It's a series, actually. Book 1 came out last year, and they're now introducing Book 2. And let's just jump right back into it, gentlemen. Tell us a little bit about Book 1, J.D. So again, I know we mentioned it in the first segment, but J.D. actually wrote the books based on Paul's life.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Better him, because if I try to sing, that's why I'm a piano player.
That's right. Well, that's how I am with the writing, too, so trust me.
So God trusted him with
JD,
this.
we need to talk after this anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. So book 1 begins, and this is funny. So I refer to Paul in the book as literary Paul, and then there's real Paul.
Okay.
So in the novel, we open the book with the birth of this blue baby, and that first chapter really gives you the perspective of what it means to be born that way and how life will sort of pan out when doctors tell parents something of that magnitude. And book 1 follows the journey. There are 2 timelines in the book. And you see one timeline of this teenager and one of the adult. And it's so funny how these events sort of mirror each other. And I found them fascinating as I was reading his journals. And I think I told you this. I said, this is so interesting how your life mirrored 2 journeys happening at different moments.
Yeah.
So it was very important to me to explore the before.
Okay.
In the beginning, the plan was to write the aftermath of the transplant, and I told him, I said, there's no way we can talk just about that without going deep into what happened before, what that's like. So that's the first book, and you meet this incredible cast of characters that I have huge respect for, that I tried my best to portray in the best way possible. You see all these people trying to get it right, regardless of this situation. They're just trying to get it right. So that's where book one begins, and it ends with spoiler alert, he survives, right? So this is not
Dang it.
It does end with, okay, this transplant will happen. So book two is about living the aftermath of this transplant, but not only that, how do you deal with the surprises that come with being normal? Right? How do you spend 3 decades hearing that you can die at any moment to now hearing, oh, you're okay?
Yeah.
But then life throws you such a curveball.
Yeah.
After that, so how do you navigate that? So that's where book two comes in. What's that like?
Okay.
Yeah.
And so it goes on to explore that. Well, so along with it being about Paul's life, is there another theme that you're shooting for here? I mean, the broken miracle. I like the. Do I need to leave that alone for now?
No.
Let him get the book.
No. So when we were here in June of 2019, visiting a few locations, I wanted to see a few things, right? To write this beautiful culture in the best way possible.
You bet.
The people. I just remember thinking, nothing that's whole needs mending. So nothing that's perfect needs a miracle. And I just turned to him and I said, oh, it's going to be called The Broken Miracle. And he just, it's like, oh,
wow,
okay,
that's
okay. Yeah, just like that. My titles come to me like that.
Yeah. That's awesome, though.
Yeah, and I dedicated the second book to the misfits because that's such a theme in this novel. You know, people expect you to be something. They believe that you're going to be this thing because this happened, and then when you turned out to be something completely different, people have these expectations of what you must be, the journey you must walk upon. And The Broken Miracle 2 is proof of sometimes life has its mysteries, and it's about owning up to that. There's a symbolism of the moth and the butterfly. And some people are moths, other people are butterflies, and some people expect it to be one or the other.
Yep.
But then when you turn out to be a moth, right, the misfit amidst the butterflies, you look dangerous.
Okay.
And people question.
Yeah.
Right.
I think what's fun with the book, if you're from Utah, and him writing from an outsider's perspective,
right.
being born in Brazil and then living in
New York,
Florida and Boston and New York, to come to Utah for the first time, do research. And really, he only interviewed me and read my journals. He didn't interview anybody else because he just wanted it through the lenses of what he believed I'm wearing and how I see the world. And so, I don't know, Brad, if you've ever understood what it feels like to be a disappointment.
Oh, that's never happened to me.
Or
anybody. Well, you can join our club.
Yeah, or the land of the misfits toys.
Yes.
Where's Santa Claus? He's coming.
Yes.
But I have square wheels.
Yeah.
And you feel like an oddball out. You are taught to be something.
Right.
And all of us want to be that. But that's
something.
That's not easy to always live up to, and you disappoint people because you tend to fail at certain things. You make mistakes. When you grow older, trauma from your childhood always surfaces.
Yes.
You can't bury things. It always comes to the surface, and you have to deal with those things. Right. And so much of the strong pioneer culture is to just put those things aside. We'll get to heaven and work it out.
Right.
But I'm a firm believer that God wants us to work it out now.
Right.
By learning to trust more in the process and in him. So this story, I think it just, it's not just my story. It's the story of anyone who has felt like they've been a major disappointment and not lived up to the miracle that faith preceded.
Because think about it, and this was something that was always in my mind. You live through something so mind-blowing and impossible, and you stick around.
Right. Right.
You get to tell a story
Yes.
that you died, and then you came back, you stuck around.
And you stuck around.
So I was also raised in the Christian faith. So Paul, when we were talking about the book, he said to me, I would love to meet Lazarus. A lot of people want to meet Jesus. I want to meet Lazarus.
Yeah.
And I grew up in Sunday school and all that,
Right,
so
right.
I got the reference, but I was like, what do you mean? And he goes, well, Jesus dies and goes to heaven.
Yes.
Lazarus comes back to life. He sticks around.
Uh-huh.
What happened then?
Yeah, what happened then? Oh.
So-
How many firesides did Lazarus have to give?
Ooh.
Yeah. And
There's nothing wrong with doing firesides. They're fantastic.
Yeah.
But, you spread yourself thin sharing sacred things.
Yes. I
Yeah,
can
so
see
so
that.
I could, and that stuck with me, and that actually made it in the book. There's a piece of dialogue in a certain chapter, and I'm like, okay, I have to have this character say this. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, it's interesting, the whole Lazarus scenario, because, he's in the tomb, he's in heaven or somewhere where he went, and here comes, you're slammed back into your body.
Yes.
There's your good friend, probably cousin or brother-in-law or whatever, who knows. Jesus is right there, and you're like, I was just with your father. What are you doing?
Yeah. Exactly.
And why do I stink so bad?
Yes.
And he's like, well, listen, let's have a little, because then Jesus comes out with him.
Right.
It's not that big cinematic,
Correct.
BBC version.
Yep.
Gee, Lazarus, come forward. Lazarus he walks out. He's like limping, and they're all excited to see him. But now he's got to go and go live.
Right.
And but the scripture goes on to say he was hunted down.
Really?
Because
I didn't see that part.
He was hunted down.
Read a little.
Well, because he was the ultimate, one of the last major miracles, showing the world that we have the ability to raise people from the dead, and that's what they did with me. Jesus did that a long time ago, but the doctors today, through organ donation, they had me on an operating table. They took my heart out. And technically, it's my heart. Yeah. My heart should be in a grave or something.
Correct.
It has all my muscle memory, my DNA in it.
Yeah.
And then they put the heart of another person in me and raised me from the dead temporarily. So, as a Christian, I kind of just scoff off, well, yeah, of course Jesus got resurrected, and no big deal.
Yeah.
We don't even know half the things, and we think we're pretty smart, but they raised me from the dead. But then, like Lazarus, man, that guy, I'm sure aren't you Lazarus? Aren't you Lazarus? I'm sure he was like Peter sometimes, like, it's not me.
Not me.
Not me, no, not me. And, he was hunted down, and
oh, wow.
Who knows what kind of other death he suffered later.
And stories create community, right? Stories bring us together. The world is built on stories. Faith is built on stories. I love studying religion and mythology, and stories are the foundation of who we are, regardless of what you believe.
Yeah.
So when writing this one, that was also something that I was very aware of, especially reading his journals, that these stories united these people that had gone through these, my God, incredible journeys. Not only him, but even this week during the signings, hearing these stories, you begin to realize that our lives are just books on the shelf of the universe, and people read us.
Right.
What are we going to give them once they discover our pages? And just like he said, I can only imagine Lazarus' story and what kind of people, what they heard and what happened. But yeah, it was just something that it had to be in the book. It just had to be in it.
So the book is very inspiring in that context, and I'm grateful for that, because that's always been a recurring theme with me. I just know people have talents and skills buried inside of them that they never bring out, because the world just kind of beats it out of them. And sometimes it takes a tragic event in our lives to get us to see that and give us the motivation to say, you know what, I just skipped death. I just overcame this big obstacle. Why can't I overcome the next big obstacle and be who I'm really supposed to be?
I mean, trauma creates art.
Yes. Ooh, I like that.
Right.
Okay.
There would be no Moonlight Sonata
had
or Ninth Symphony had Beethoven's heart not been broken
Wow.
by the woman he was engaged to, who he wanted to marry, and she was supposed to marry this other guy. They were going to meet at this famous hotel, and Beethoven says, "If you're there, I know you're going to marry me and not this man your father wants you to marry." And she says, "If you're there, I'll marry you." She never makes it because there was a rainstorm and her carriage broke down while she was trying to get there. They see each other years later, and they're like having, just this horror. I got married, and he's like, I waited for you. Yeah, I tried to get there.
Yeah.
But there was no cell phones, so. But that's fine, because now we've got dun 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 dun.
Dun, dun.
Yeah.
She broke my heart.
It created a song.
So see, that's the thing, is our pain
Trauma
is everyone's gain.
Trauma creates art. I mean,
yeah.
even if you look at religion, every major religion, there's always the catalyst, and usually the catalyst is something very traumatic.
Yeah.
In the Christian faith, you have Jesus.
Yeah.
And it's through death that
death,
there's
right.
redemption.
That's
So
it, right.
it's the duality of the universe that always fascinated me, even when I was a child. I've always been a very curious person. So you find these common threads throughout humanity, and you can't help but explore them.
Okay. Well, you've been describing some of the things that people will gain from reading the book. Is there more? Like I said, I promised I wouldn't dig too much, because buy the book, everybody, buy the book. But anyway, what do you feel like overall people can gain from buying this book?
The courage to take a chance and a second chance.
Yeah, and a second chance.
And a second chance.
Yeah, and we've all seen that thing with the frog going down the birds. Never.
That's great, actually. That's great.
Yeah.
The courage to own up to their story, to be proud of their story, but I think also the peace to be themselves in the end. This book has such a beautiful ending, and nowadays it's quite uncommon, and that's always something that was there. Even when I was writing the first one, obviously knowing Paul, but knowing that there was a happy ending, was so profound to me. That I'm writing these dark moments, knowing that there was gonna be light at the end of the tunnel. And like that song that Paul wrote with Tyler, I know it hurts finding your worth. I know it hurts. You've been through worse, feeling so small.
Right.
This big universe, and that's such a theme. At the end of the day, you're worth it. I think that's
And for me, the books, everybody should have their story written, because it's probably the best therapy to go back and when somebody takes an objective look at your life and then writes it, and you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize the craziness of it all and the chaos of it all. And yet the reason he says there's a happy ending, the reason I believe there's a happy ending, is because I never quit on God. God never quit on me.
Right.
And I'm a big believer in the God who weeps, the God who suffered, the God who bleeds, and that's why I put all my eggs in the basket of Jesus.
You bet.
And I have love and respect for all faiths. And being in Hindu temples and watching a young couple have their baby blessed, or being in a mosque and having the men take me back to wash my feet and hands so I could pray with them. Wow. Jesus was in those moments. And what I think the overarching theme of the book is that the God who suffered was there with me the entire time. And there's even a very sacred, almost out-of-body experience I had with Christ in the book. And so I'm a big believer that we need to trust him in the aspect of he knows his children, and we try to interfere and intervene with what he is doing, even with the least, the most wicked, the most evil in our eyes.
Yeah.
We have no right to get in the middle of that and try to make that person feel even less.
Right. Oh, man.
Constant support, constant love.
Wow.
You know, the Christian is there to celebrate in the person they care about's victories.
Yeah.
The person who is not there is denying the Christ.
Wow. Well, Paul, you went on from this to write a, would you call it a soundtrack or an album based on the
my
book?
2 cents of the story.
Okay, yeah, let's hear it.
Yeah, I said if we're gonna do the book, I went to the record label at the time I was with, and I said I'd really like to write some songs because people know my instrumental, but I have some things to say, and could I write an album, sort of a soundtrack?
Yeah.
And so I did with The Broken Miracle, and the whole idea on that project was to collaborate with very diverse groups of people.
Okay.
Because I believe that everyone is welcome to the table. If I always hear the story of, you'll get to heaven and there's the table, and Jesus will be at the dinner, and you have your name, and you'll get there and you'll be so. And I hear that story time and time again in churches all over America.
Yes.
And I go, I don't know. The Jesus I've come to understand, if I get to that table and I see my name on it, and Jesus would have the name of every single person. But for whatever reason, that person's not there.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, why is that? Why aren't they here? How did I get to be here, and why are they not here?
Right.
And he just looks at me, and I know what he's thinking. I go, okay, let's go get him.
Let's go get them.
And we go get him. And that's eternity, chasing down those who feel unloved, and we love the hell out of them.
Yes.
And so with this, I wanted to get people that have been outcast, people that have been judged. I reached out to Tyler Glenn, who, the lead singer of the Neon Trees, who with Dan Reynolds created Love Loud, which is a festival here in Utah to support the LGBTQ plus community.
Okay.
And Tyler, his heart's been broken because he wants to be an active Latter-day Saint. And I'm not going to speak fully for him, but he's gay, and it's hard for him. And so him and I, listen, I connect in so many ways. Let's write that song, I Know It Hurts.
Oh, wow.
So to work with him was amazing. And at the same time, I'd written a love song for my wife, and I sent it over to David Archuleta. David was going through his own little struggles at the time, and we made a video together. He met J.D., and David's heart is so pure, and we did the song.
Yeah, we love him.
My heart beats for you. And I like the line in there where it says, "The day I met you, I was born again."
Yeah.
Talking about my wife, but also God. The day I met you, I was born again. Everybody gets second chances. Everybody gets these new opportunities. Excuse me. And then I wrote with Thompson Square, the Grammy-winning country band. Are you gonna kiss me or not?
Oh, okay.
Dun, 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 dun. So we wrote a song, Kiefer and I, Can You Love a Man with Half a Heart?
Yeah.
And it plays out like a Townes Van Zandt
piece
of music, like an old Merle Haggard song.
Yeah, yep.
And then I had a Christian artist that travels with Kirk Cameron everywhere, and big on family values and monogamous marriage. So Matt Hammett, and he has a son with heart disease. So it was a very diverse group of the spectrum. And the point is that every one of us is imperfect. We're broken. And we all need a miracle. And there's no coincidence that a carpenter was the Son of God.
Son of God, right.
And a carpenter loves to fix things.
Interesting.
Especially broken things, and polish them up and then give them away.
Yeah.
And Jesus is doing that with all of us and giving us to one another to enjoy here in this beautiful world. And that's the beautiful broken miracles, that all of us are just being crafted into an incredible piece of art. And really, in essence, I think we're just here to figure out if we can get along with each other.
Yeah. Well, that's a big part of it. I believe that.
Yeah,
Kids
me
in a
too.
sandbox.
Me too.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, thank you for your time today. But let's, before we end the show, if you could, you having survived a rather complex chronic illness, is there any advice that you guys can give to families who are going through something similar?
Yeah, I mean, what's your advice based on what you studied, and then I'll share.
Yeah. Well, there's always hope, isn't there?
Yeah, there is. Absolutely.
There's always hope. I mean, hearing the stories, getting to witness firsthand what he means to so many people, his art, his life. I would just say, keep on hoping, keep on living.
Yeah.
Just don't stop living.
Right.
Be present, and take heart.
Okay.
That would be, yeah. But after spending, excuse me, after spending 3 years writing about this journey, I can honestly say that there's always hope.
Always hope.
Because sometimes I would read the writing and I would think, my God, this is real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I learned to adapt, survive and adapt. When I was in the hospital receiving those procedures, I was being tortured, really.
Yeah.
But in essence, I was also surrounded by so much love.
Yeah.
And so I was in this weird bubble of pain and pure joy.
Oh, wow.
And that's what life is. If you don't go through pain, you don't understand pure joy. And this was C.S. Lewis, what he was trying to say in The Meaning of Pain, and, A Grief Observed, when he first wrote that book after his wife died. He had an alias name. He didn't even want to be, because he was so angry at God.
Right.
Why is it that every time I knock on God's door, he slams it in my face? And I look through the window and he's there.
Yeah.
Why won't he comfort me right now?
Yeah.
And then why does he fly the door open and come in and come out and chase me down and just hold me till I'm done weeping? And this is, we're learning to grow up.
Yeah.
We're learning to mature, because unless we are strong, we can't provide for our children and the next generation. We have to go through the fire. Everything is a story. It's why, like Lord of the Rings, taking the ring to Mordor. I mean, one of the greatest stories ever told. And so the number of friends of mine who have taken their lives, the bottom line was they believed they were not good enough for other people, and they believed that everyone else would be better off if they were no longer around. They did not understand how valuable they are to God. They were judging their value based on what the community of religious leaders are challenging them to do in order to get, there's a public shaming that takes place. For me to change, I have to go, I have to confess, I have to do this, I have to do that. And ironically, Brad, the only trial that was ever held in the New Testament was Jesus Christ.
Trial.
No one else was ever put on trial, questioned,
Mocked.
and excommunicated. It was Christ.
Yeah.
And they killed him.
Wow.
They killed him. So people need to know that that person who was put on trial, he would do that again and again and again for you, so you don't have to, and you shouldn't be on trial at all. Because he has already made you worthy valuable and loved. And those are the thoughts that come to me time and time again every time I get into that dark, dark space. As a moth,
Yes.
as a moth among butterflies, I'm in the
Thank you for being a moth.
every page. I think every page on the book there's a moth.
Yeah.
Because we're obsessed with the light,
Yes.
but we understand the darkness of pain.
Yes.
You know, it's a
That's good.
it's a Batman
You
scenario.
can navigate through both, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's God. You
Yeah.
know, God understood the darkness.
Very inspired words.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Brad.
Paul. Oh, this has just warmed my heart, and I know everyone on in our audience here will love this as well. But could you tell them just really quick, where can they find out more? I know we have the website, thebrokenpromise.com, and also your website,
Yeah.
Paul.
So the paulcardall.com, J.D.NETTO.com, thebrokenmiracle.com, and Amazon right now has the Kindle first book for free.
Okay, guys, you heard it right here. Go get it. Go to Amazon.com. Is
Yeah.
it on? So just look up The Broken Miracle.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
And you can ask Alexa or Siri, whichever woman is
Play the
working for
album.
you.
Alexa doesn't ever talk to me. I got to get
Well,
my grandkids in there.
Hey,
they listen.
Alexa. Hey, Siri, please play The Broken Miracle by Paul Cardall.
Yep. All right. Then our phones are going off.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
My daughter always says, Alexa, play my dad.
Yes.
And she goes, I don't know who your dad is. Well, let me tell you.
That's awesome.
That's amazing.
Well, thank you, Paul. Thank you, JD,
Thank
for
you
your
so much. Thank
inspiring
you.
words today. And this is I needed to hear this today, as well as I know our audience is going to get a lot from it as well. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Brad.
Thank
All right,
you.
everybody, stay tuned. Again, go to the miracle, thebrokenmiracle.com, thebrokenmiracle.com, or paulcardall.com, or JD. Yep, with just your last name,
JD.NETTO.com, yeah.
JD.NETTO.com. Okay, to find out more about this. Don't miss this opportunity. Again, as Paul and JD said, you can go on Amazon right now and download a free copy of it. So go for it. Go get it. And so I'm going to be right back here in just a few minutes, and we'll wrap things up.
Do you know someone who's gambling with death due to an addiction? Do you know someone whose life is being turned upside down due to a loved one that's battling with addiction? Hi, I'm Al Richards. I am the host of the Other Side of Addiction podcast. I started the podcast due to my wife's battle with alcohol. Let's just say I became addicted to her addiction. Our podcast is helping people understand a little more about those who have battled addiction and those who are hurting from their addiction. Through raw vulnerability, we share stories that help uncover the root causes of addiction. Shame felt on both sides, matter of the conscious and subconscious mind, continued beliefs, and often confusing paths of recovery. We collaborate with real people and their stories, as well as licensed professionals, to help our audience gain a better understanding of addiction. You can find us on Resilience Talk Network. You can also find us on Facebook at Mr. Al Richards. That's Facebook at Mr. Al Richards. You can also find us on YouTube. Just look up the Other Side of Addiction podcast.
Hello, my friends. This is Brad Neufeld. Thank you for tuning in to the Resilience Talk Network. You can listen to my show, Resilience, every morning, Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. On my show, we will be discussing what it takes for you to overcome the day-to-day challenges that all of us seem to face in life, as well as some of those devastating ones that may lead us to feelings of either hopelessness or despair. It's my goal to provide you with the tools and skills that you need to overcome anything that is thrown your way. To find out more about the show, please visit our website at resiliencetalk.com. That's www.resiliencetalk.com. And as always, until we meet again, go for everything that you want in life and make it happen. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Resilience with Brad Neufeld. Our listeners today have been greatly enriched with our guest, Mr. Paul Cardall and J.D.NETTO. They are the creators of this wonderful, awesome book, or book series, rather, known as The Broken Miracle. This is book 2, and as they mentioned on here, if you get on Amazon.com and look up The Broken Miracle, you can actually download this in an ebook for free. For a limited time here, so I'd highly encourage you to do it. Today we talked a little bit about Paul's story and what he had to go through to overcome his challenges of getting a heart transplant, and all of the success that he has had because he was just not ready to just give up. Okay, of course, obviously the name of our station here is Resilience, and it's that way for a reason. We want to bring to you more and more of these stories that help you to understand that anything is possible as long as you set your mind to it. And yes, you will need some help along the way. And that's our goal here at the Resilience Talk Network, is to build that network where you will have that assistance that you need. All of the programming that we have on here is geared towards that, bringing people with their stories here who have overcome the challenges of life and been able to go on to success. So you can see exactly what it is that they've done, so that you can find some similarities or some patterns in there that fit your lifestyle, that will help you to overcome the challenges that you're faced with as well. But again, if you're just tuning in and just catching the tail end of this, go back and listen to this. This has been a wonderful, wonderful podcast today. And so, again, look it up, thebrokenmiracle.com. It's thebrokenmiracle.com, or you can go to Paul Cardall's website, which is paulcardall.com. That's paulcardall.com, or also at J.D.NETTO.com. That's J.D.NETTO.com. Well, anyway, we sure appreciate you guys tuning in to watch us on this show. We're going to continue to produce this show in such a way that it's going to be more and more effective as we go along. We're working on some really wonderful things here so that this can just be something that is of help and assistance to many of you out there, because that's what it's designed. That's what my passion is. That's what I've been doing for the last 30 years as a life coach, helping other people to analyze their circumstances and to see exactly what it is they need to do to bring their talents out, their skills out, and help them to build those so that they can use those to bless their own lives, their families' lives, as well as the lives of those people in your community. So find out a little bit more about us. We like to say join the resilience. So join the resilience, and you can find out more about us on our website at resiliencetalknetwork.com. That's resiliencetalknetwork.com. And if you'd like to be on our show, please contact me, and you can do that at our email at info@resiliencetalk.com. Once again, info@resiliencetalk.com, or you can call me directly on my cell phone at area code 435-830-6945. Once again, 435-830-6945. And as always, as we're signing off here, go for everything that you want in life and make it happen.